giving you the ability to build your own army of proprietary agents and intellects.
Saeed, how's it going?
Yo, what up, boys?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Do you want to walk us through what we're looking at here? Congrats on your launch.
Thank you very much. Well, what you're watching here is something that an incompetent imbecile like me cannot take credit for, because I've got a phenomenal team behind me that's been able to put all of these things together and end up looking really good. So I get to do the easy part here.
Love it.
Nice.
And real quick, I think.
Sorry, what Dom's saying is because he's lagging, but your mic is not coming through super clear. Are you able to adjust it?
I think so. Let me figure out how I'm gonna do this. So give me just a sec here.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time, and then we'll get into it. Sorry, guys.
It's a bit of a muffled kind of like I don't know, echoey sound.
And we had you in the comments here. You're saying this is an example of a job function, not the entirety. Unfortunately, your wife's job is at stake, and it's going to be happening quite quickly. Well, and for context, yes, my wife is an EA at a large firm, but I mean, it's still in person. It's still in person. It's a little different. It's not a virtual assistant. I think virtual assistants absolutely is tough, but
I'm still struggling with my Bluetooth here too. Just 1 second.
Yeah, no worries, man. Take your time.
I'm gonna throw myself on mute, because knowing me, I'm gonna probably end up losing my shit over this technology. Not functioning correctly.
Sure, feel free to mute. We will we'll riff off for a little bit then.
Yeah, we'll bump you off stage for right now. You can get sorted, and then we can do a proper introduction here. But yeah, so that was the video. You guys saw the pre-video here. He definitely got the hood, so he's on brand, that's for sure.
I got the website pulled up, so maybe we'll just start running through that. Again, we'll go through today. We'll try to get background. If you guys have questions, of course, please ask them in the chat. We'll make sure to gather those and get them out. But we'll go through background. We'll go through the technology, maybe some how the business is doing, and get all the numbers for you. But this is the website. Own your own AI before AI owns you. Building infrastructure for the post-agentic world where individuals own and monetize their AI agents. We've already watched the demo, so I'm not going to walk us through that again, but you can watch it up there. They've got some partners trusted by forward-thinking companies, it seems. We'll get into their partnerships as well, so I can write that down. Make sure I remember. Okay. Your complete AI workforce built for ownership. Everything you need to deploy, manage, and monetize your AI agents, from autonomous task execution to revenue generating, all over one hood. Autonomous AI. Deploy AI agents that handle your workflows end to end, from data analysis to content creation. Your agent works while you focus on strategy. Look, I think these are the conversations we've been having a lot of recently, and it's just, we see with Claude Code, we see with the quick emergence of AI. Soon we'll have AI that can basically contribute while we do other things completely. We talked about yesterday, we go to the movies, we go golf, AI should be there doing work and doing it for us. So I think this is kind of what that's dipping into. Hey, we got you back on. You want to test out?
Yeah, let's do it.
Is this better?
Oh,
yes,
much better. Yes, thank you so much.
Of course.
All right.
Of course.
Well, then let's kick this off. Get it started. We appreciate you coming on today. You're the talk of the town right now. You just did a big thing. Can we talk a little bit about who you are, your background, and then we'll get into the product and why you chose to launch a token here with SOAR.
Yeah, you guys are making me do the one thing that my wife hates the most, which is talk about myself. So I'm gonna...
We have to do journalistic duty.
Safe space. Dom likes to talk about himself all the time. So.
Oh no, you said safe space. One of the words that I hate.
Also, I hate it too. I don't know why it came out of my mouth. So don't worry, you're good.
You said it to the wrong guy, dude.
Yeah, we're aligned. Don't worry, we're aligned.
Awesome. Well, I could tell by your background. We better be aligned.
Yeah, USD1. That's right. Do you have a relationship there, or is this just happens to be the stable coin that you guys are pegged to?
We're working on the relationship there.
Got you.
I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, well, we'll dig into maybe you won't leave it at that. We'll dig into it a little more later. But Let's hear. You know, who are we talking to? Who are we putting our money behind right now? And give us an idea.
Yeah, sure. So let me know how much you want me to dig into it. I can give you a high level overview around my background. So I made sure that I was on an HD camera here so that people can see the white hair that's behind this beard, so people know that you're actually, you're talking to a dinosaur. So my background, I date all the way back to the prehistoric age of the early .com boom, when it was just starting to kick off. So serial entrepreneur, launched my first company when I was a senior in high school. That's when the whole .com boom was kicking off. Start off there, and it's funny. Everyone is talking about, and I love what you were saying earlier, Dom, about this hype around AI, and everyone is building agentic solutions and this and that. Very, very, and it's going to be a very interesting conversation for us to dig deep into, right? Like
Yeah.
the what behind or rather the why behind the what. So I've been involved in the space for the last, I would say, close to now encroaching on 30 years now. So 3 decades I've been involved in this space, starting off all the way from when AI wasn't even AI back then, right? It started off back in the data warehousing days, and then got into business intelligence, analytics. So straight out of high school, that's why I had launched my first company, which was focusing on data visualization and data warehousing. I was with a GE corporate, built out their HR data warehouse, and then got involved through GE Capital, fell in love with the capital market, so I ended up becoming a Wall Street junkie. Private equity, M&A, trading, asset management, investment banking, and built out I was in the shared services division, built that out for business intelligence with Credit Suisse, and then I also went post Lehman collapse. I went in to help them, their asset management division called Neuberger Berman, split out and go independent. So I was built out their data analytics division over there, was asked to run that for a couple of years until I started getting bored again, and that's when I left to launch a company focusing on data visualization, natural language processing, and geospatial analytics. Built that out, got picked up by a larger firm, and then around that time I started getting exposure to this thing called Bitcoin, which I actually came in as a cynic of. Only
What year is this?
This was 2015, right?
Okay.
2015.
Hey, I'm class of 2015 too, so I know what you're talking about.
Well, I won't say I'm class of 2015. 2015 was when I started to pay attention as a cynic, right? So took some time, beating the shit out of it, and only to get exposure to Satoshi's white paper, and was just completely blown away by the implications of this underlying technology that was powering it. And then, given my background in the world of data and the capital markets, and being on the bleeding edge of tech and the financial markets, I knew that the way that we had perceived value is going to change drastically, right? So if there's anything that has value, that's what we call an asset. Those assets are essentially what we trade. And if up until now, the problem with any asset is that the value of any asset is inversely proportional to the supply of that asset in any given market. So if you can't control the supply of an asset, the value of that asset is going to diminish quite significantly, right? Which is the reason why this whole concept around money, digital money, it wasn't a novel concept. It's been talked about since the 70s. But the reality is that, and this was my concern, is that the reality is that you can't take anything that you take digital, you can't control the supply of it, because it's this easy for me to just replicate it and send it out. So Satoshi's white paper had algorithmically solved for that. That for me was the aha moment. So I was like, well, hold on. If this is something now in which you can actually control the supply, now you can tokenize it. If you can tokenize it, you could securitize it, and if you could securitize it, you could monetize it. So the way we're going to see value is going to change quite drastically. So that's where I became a very, very big believer. Now we're going to like 2017, and became a very big believer in real world assets. So this was before real world assets were even a thing. So that's where I joined this project called BankX. And we were the pioneers behind the proof of asset protocol. So that was us. joined them as their global chief commercial officer, eventually ended up becoming the CEO of the Americas there. But then the founder and I, we didn't see eye to eye in terms of our path to execution. So I ended up resigning from the organization, left, told my team the next day that I was leaving, and they decided to follow me. And that was the genesis behind Liquidity Digital, which is where we were building out a marketplace for institutions to be able to trade their most valuable asset, which is their investor network, right? Protect that, right, without exposing it. So deal syndication for private deals. So that was I was running that. Ended up our first institutional check that we were slated to get in. A week before that was scheduled to come in, we get ghosted by our investors. This was right before FTX and the downturn of the market. So it's it's funny. Everyone thinks that they're an entrepreneur until they're faced with adversity. That's when they quickly realize that, you know what,
This isn't for me.
maybe I should put a W in front of it. It's what I call a wantrepreneur. So there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there. But I was like, look, I'm gonna just keep going. And one of the things that we wanted to build out during that time was this deal recommendation engine. And that but the cost of capital that was required to build out this deal recommendation engine was so significant, I had pushed it on my roadmap out to like our later Series A, early Series B. But when this watershed moment with OpenAI happened, that is when I said, well, let me try to play with it. I had very early access to this API, right? And I'm one of those rare CEOs that's also knows technology to be dangerous enough. So I was able to get a hold of it, and I started playing around with it, and we ended up building out in a matter of weeks. We ended up building out the first sort of agentic solution. This was 2 years ago, in 2023. So ended up building that out, and we were going to go to market with it as a due diligence analyst. But then what I realized was I stopped myself, and this is where the self-awareness, right, is so crucial. One of the things that I'm aware of is my level of intelligence. And like I started off with this conversation, I'm not that smart, right? So if a dummy like me could come up with something like this so quickly, whereas in my previous venture, I needed literally millions to be able to build something like this out. The reality is that there is going to end up being a mass proliferation of these agentic solutions that's going to be coming in. So rather than position ourselves where it's going to end up becoming a commoditized tech in the next 18 to 24 months, let's start to get ahead of it. Let's start to think about what the second order effects of these agentic solutions is actually going to be. So that is where I started going down this rabbit hole and came up with this whole notion around building what does a post-agentic world look like. And in this post-agentic world, our thesis became very simple, which is to Josh, what I was my tweet towards you, or my response to you about your wife, is what I realized what we're going to start to have is mass automation, right, from these agentic solutions. That is going to lead to the automation of tasks, to the automation of processes, eventually the automation of jobs. So unlike most people in the space, especially at that time, that were sort of pussyfooting around this, we were like, nope, we're going to double down on it. It's harsh, but I think a brutal dose of the truth is what's needed for people. And jobs automation is an absolute inevitability. The question is, when your job does get replaced, how does humanity survive, right? Because we're a very labor-driven society, right? Whether it's intellectual labor, creative labor, manual labor, physical labor nevertheless. But if your labor can be algorithmically replaced by an agent, then you better make sure you own that fucking agent, as opposed to a centralized entity like an OpenAI or a Google or a Perplexity or an Anthropic.
We're trying to figure out right now is, where does the value accrue on these things? Like, does it stay within the big labs? Does it accrue to the agents themselves? Does it accrue to Google's stock price? Does it accrue to individuals? I want to get that in a second, but you've been building this business for 2+ years, right?
Yes.
Just so everyone on this call is aware, this is not a new thing for you. You've been doing this, you're highly experienced in it. And now if you want to maybe get into where
I've been building this business for, I would say, almost 3 decades now, right? This is a culmination of all of these things coming together.
Knew you were going to say that.
Am I that predictable?
No, fair enough, though. You've been in data all your life. And I mean, what makes a good AI? It's the data that's put into it, right? So it makes sense.
it's a culmination of, or rather the convergence of the data, right? The data play, and then the decentralization, which is the Web3 side where it comes in. But I think most importantly, this is also, we shouldn't forget, this is also a fintech play. This is an economic, we're talking about a post-labor economy that we need to build out for, right? So the way that we start to think about in this post-agentic world, what we're gonna have to rewire how we're thinking, right? And that rewiring means that we have to start thinking about post-labor economics, right? So to your question, Josh, earlier that you had asked around where does that value accrue? Does it go to the agents? Nope, it doesn't go to the agents. The agents are nothing else but just the front facing. Think of it as like the front end, right? That's all they are. And the mistake that most people tend to make is they think that just because they have the agent, that they're in control of it. Absolutely not, because all of the underlying components that you're interacting with, that's all going upstream. That upstream where that's going, that is where that value is being accrued, right? That is going to those LLMs, whether it's a Google, whether it's an OpenAI, whether it's an Anthropic. So the real, and where does it go, right? So I use the word here, I use LLM, right? There's a large language model. So these large language models that every inference call that you're making to them, you're training them, right? You're training them on your data, on how you do things, on your experience. So when you do that, there's going to come a point where once you've trained them on it, it's folks like us, right? We're going to come in, we're gonna just say that if that's the case, then we're just going to create an agent and you're going to be rendered useless. And let's be honest, the vast majority of the work that we do, it's, as much as we like to think that it's unique, a small percentage of it is where the unique part comes in. The vast majority of it is actually repetitive, and it's something which could easily be trained for someone to do. And if I can train a human to do it, you better believe I can train AI to do it far more efficiently. So the real danger then becomes, so first off, labor, like I said, with your wife's job, right? That we just have to accept the fact that this is an inevitability. This is what's going to happen. We're just like how, when people talk about jobs disruption, right? There's no jobs disruption. I don't like to use that term, right? I was on a panel actually, and I was asked this question, like, well, you're building a very disruptive technology, right? Aren't you afraid? I said, first off, I take offense to the fact that you call this thing a disruptive technology. This is not a disruptive technology. This is what I call a destructive technology, right? Calling it a disruptive technology it's too soft of a term, right?
But leaves remember, survivors.
Exactly. Don't forget, destruction is the catalyst for creation. So if the dinosaurs weren't destroyed, people like you and I wouldn't be having this conversation today, right? So destruction is a catalyst for creation.
So my question to you, and we see this, it's kind of interesting. In China, there's optimism for AI, where in the United States, there's more, they're not so optimistic about AI. It's going to take our jobs, it's going to ruin our lives. And we've seen this in industries in the past where something comes in, it destroys it, and then you said like it rebuilds it. Do you think from these AI agents taking over, we're going to actually see, again, you talk about these secondhand effects of more jobs coming up, more opportunities for people, etc.?
No, I don't follow that. I don't believe that bullshit. That's a bullshit statement. It's it's partially true, right? These are things that we say to make ourselves feel good, right? Like, hey, it's okay, right? Look, this has been the case. Every single technological innovation and every single revolution it's created more jobs, right? And so they're partially right. They're absolutely right. So here's what I say: not only will this revolution, this technological revolution, not only will this create jobs, newer jobs like in the past, but I say that this will create more jobs than any trend in the past ever that's happened. So we're going to have more jobs. The only difference is that those jobs are not going to be done by humans. They're going to be done by the very machines that are going to create those jobs, right? So humans are going to start to get extracted out of that. Now, am I saying that it's going to be 100% of the jobs that are being done by AI and agents? Absolutely not. Of course not. That's not what I'm saying, right? But I'm also not saying it's going to be 5%, right? Realistically, or probably conservatively speaking, we're looking at about 40%, right? And you know, my old buddies, right, from my from my OG days support this, right? Goldman Sachs, they did a recent study. McKinsey supports this as well, where according to the Goldman Sachs study, by 2030, 300 million knowledge workers are slated to be out of a job, right? They're going to be replaced. Now, let's just do the math here, right? Just to, for the sake of the audience to understand what kind of a problem we're looking at. 300 million jobs, right? And these aren't your rickshaw drivers or your local cabbies, right? These are knowledge workers, what we call white collar jobs, right? So these white collar jobs, on average, right? Let's go conservative. On average, 50K, is that average? Is that fair, right? Number of
Probably
50K,
low.
right? Yeah, exactly. That even that's a low number for someone like that, right? Like your average software engineer is not making 50K, right? They're making far more, but we'll go conservative here. So, yeah, so 50K, multiply 50K per worker times 300 million jobs that are gone. That is a 15 trillion with a T, $15 trillion problem that we're going to be facing. Now, the question is, those jobs are going to get done by someone. Where does that value, that $15 trillion worth of value, where does that, to your point, Josh, where does that accrue to? In our current state that we're in right now, that's accruing to these centralized entities that it's going to go to, right?
So I got a time out here. So we talk about this on our show often. We've covered AI 2027 at length, which is a white paper that basically predicts this exact outcome and says that by 2027, we kind of hit the tipping point for all of this, where we go past the point of no return. And it's like, you know, general intelligence out there, it's big. You're saying by 2030, which I think aligns to a lot of that. How does this manifest itself? When I want to, because in AI 2027, for instance, it says that, you know, within the labs and the government, they know this is all kind of happening, but the general public, they just see layoffs. They see maybe the stock market continues to march higher. The stock market performs quite well, but the average person starts losing their job. At what point did the average person clue into this and be like, holy, like this is a huge, like, then becomes a big political issue. But you know, what is that kind of, what will it feel like for the average person? Will they come, what I'm asking is, will they come to your product and be like, oh, I got to own my agent to survive this? Like, give us what the experience for the average knowledge worker will be, and then how do they protect themselves?
So if they come to our product, by the time that they realize it, that holy shit, this has affected me, it's already too late, right? The reality is that what needs to get done now, right? Like there is an urgency associated with this, a mass urgency. So right now we're just giving all of our information away. We're giving all of our data away, right? So, and we did the same thing, right? This problem was essentially what led to the birth of Web3, right? Web3 ethos were built off of that, right? Own your data, right? In this instance, it's no longer about own your data. It's about own your AI, own your experience, right? Own the sovereignty of everything, what it is that you're doing. So what we're doing is we're building out, instead of having these large language models that people are communicating with, right? What you're going to do is you're going to gain access to what we call these individualized learning models, right? We used to call them individualized language models, but we've changed that because it's no longer just our architecture that we're building. It's not just a composition of LLMs, but we're also leveraging large world models as well as a part of that architecture, because that's going to be a very, very novel approach that's needed. So so when you have this ilm, right, your ILM, right, or your ilm as we call it, which by the way in Arabic ilm literally translates to knowledge, right? So your ilm is novelly yours, right? No one else has access to it. So if Dom's ilm, every experience that he's
ILM
gaining,
stands for individualized language model,
learning model,
individualized
learning model, right? Which is it takes elements from both LLMs and LWMs, right? So large world models and large language models. So your ilm is novelly yours. No one else has access to it. Now, if I wanted access to it, right, then I would have to get permissioned access from you. And every time I'm interacting with it, you are the one that gets to monetize on it. So when we start to think about this shift, right, of labor, what ends up happening is we're right now, how we earn the way that we earn today is through these labor mechanics, right? And it's all in one, right? It's you're paid for your output. Your output is your labor. However, your labor is a product of your input, which is your intellect, how you do something. But if your agent can actually replace the output, the value shifts from the output to the input, which is your intellect, right? Which are these insights, this knowledge, which comes from the daily interactions, these experiences that you guys have, right? So all of those experiences that you're gonna have right now, those you're just giving those away, right? In the SHIZA ecosystem,
I get it.
Yeah. So in the
So
SHIZA ecosystem, go ahead.
Maybe before you explain this in the SHIZA ecosystem, because I just want to explain what you just said, which I think is really important, is there. So whether you use an AI or an individual, let's use an executive assistant for simple terms. If I'm an executive assistant, the end output is whatever that output is. Someone's life gets better, senior person on a company's life gets better, and you help them do that, right? And what you're saying is whether that output is done by a human or an AI is, that's where the value will change. It'll shift from human to AI, right? And that's where you said there's a $15 trillion opportunity here, where right now that 15 trillion, 300 million knowledge workers times $50,000 salary, $15 trillion, it's all done by humans. And what you're saying is you want to allow humans to basically control kind of the, not the output of it, because you think that can be replicated, but the inputs that are the unique skill sets, unique knowledges that each individual has to perform that task. Is that correct directionally?
That's it, man. I'm hiring.
All right, hit SHIZA now. And well, you're hiring. Great. Well,
Well, I would actually love to even dig into this concept a little bit more, because
we've
had people on the show, and even these last couple of days, I'm sure you've seen the proliferation of vibe coding, and now the average person be able to kind of code their knowledge base into whatever it is they might be. And now you're able to niche down products from maybe what corporations used to build to these individuals who are highly specific, building stuff that would never get built before. Is that kind of what you're saying? We're going to niche down the knowledge of somebody into an everything agent, and each individual is going to somehow get rewarded for their specific contributions?
That's correct. So when you talk about even everything, right? Everything means different things to different people. One of the things that we have to be careful about is mass generalization. So with mass generalization, what ends up happening is you end up because there's multiple data, and I'll try not to nerd out too much here, right? But I think it's important to understand this concept. Whenever you have an influx of information coming in from a wide variety of places, then what that does is you go into information overload. That information overload, then you're thinking about this, and then you can't get into the specificities of something. Though that's why we can describe what people call in this hallucination, right? How these AI agents end up hallucinating. So what you want to do is you want to be able to cut down on those hallucinations as much as possible. And the way for you to be able to cut down, the best mechanism for you to be able to cut down on those as much as possible is to get as specific and as targeted as possible, which is why it's important that the way that the construct of these large language models, they're great for being able to handle general things. But when you start to get into the specifics of how I want to do certain things, right, that's where I need to train it on. And I create these subsets to be able to train it on for those so that it understands how I do certain things. And that's where the value comes in. Today, we're training it, we're giving it to these LLMs to be able to improve their own models. In a world where, so when we start to think about, a post-agentic world, right? Data is going to end up getting commoditized. LLMs are going to end up getting commoditized. Agents are going to end up getting commoditized. These are all these things that I'm calling commodities. They're assets that we consider today, very, very valuable assets of today. But if they end up becoming the commodities of tomorrow, then the real question is, what is the asset? And what we're positing is that the real asset ends up becoming the novel human experience, right? So the ability then to be able to capture, own, and monetize on that novel human experience, that becomes the asset of the future. And that's essentially the encapsulation of this infrastructure that we're building out with this concept of shared human intellect zonal agents, or SHIZA.ai.
Okay, well, let's get into how you do this, because I think we're all understanding now the backdrop of it. How do you now go and make this into a reality? Are people getting paid? Like, just tell me what's going on here. Break it down in the sense of how do you bring this to life?
So there's the, you know, there's the sort of visionary aspect of this thing, right? Which is it's great. We're going to change the world, right? But um, and then there's the pragmatic approach towards this, right? It's so there's what I call the revolution, right? We're building out as this revolutionary concept, but how you get there is through an evolutionary process. It's what I call evolution towards revolution, right? This is where the pragmatism comes in. So the first thing that we're doing, and the first thing that we've done so far, is we know that these AI, that AI is going to end up replacing these jobs, and we're going to start heading towards this post-labor economy, right? But so one of the first products that we had built out, right? And you're looking at right now, you're looking at our slogan here, right? Own your AI before AI owns you. So, but before you can own your AI, you need to be able to build your AI, and building AI is not that easy, right? So for the layman. So the first product that we had built out was a product called SHIZA Developer, which is a very easy and intuitive drag and drop tool that you saw in the demo as well, right? Very easy. You just pull it, you're able to pull up your agents and whatnot. But then what we also realized was that people were coming up to us and saying, look, not only do we want these agents, we want these agentic swarms to be able to build these things out for us. So to be able to automate that, which then gave birth to the concept of SHIZA AWF, which now you guys understand where the AWF comes from.
I was gonna ask. That's your ticker.
Yeah. That's our ticker. AWF stands for the agentic workforce. So the agentic workforce is going to be that human labor replacement for what you guys are. So today you have your humans that are doing the work as a business. And what I'm going to say here is going to sound, it's probably going to end up, sounding a little bit harsh, and going to make people shit on us, my capital markets background. But I think it's important to speak the truth. And the truth is that the most expensive line item on any P&L, right? And for those who are not aware of these acronyms, P&L is your profit and loss statement, which explains how your business does, right? The most expensive line item in there, right, is human labor. Let's just call it what it is, right? So if you can take out that human labor from there, right, all of a sudden the cost, not only do your margins go up, but the cost of goods itself, whatever it is that you're building, whether it's a service or whether it's a product, right, that leads to a significant markdown on that.
Yeah, if I could turn Dom into a bot, I would be very profitable.
We can make 50 of them. We can spin up a bunch of MCGs.
Sorry, Sweet. I just said
that.
You're right, though. You're right.
No, but we're going to talk about that too. Like, so then where does the human value come in? So we're going to talk about that because I think that's also a very important. Dude, I could talk about this shit for like 3 days straight. Right? Like,
I know. We're and like part of our job too is like to kind of like get these kind of key moments. So
look, ultimately we're building. Look, we launched on SOAR. Obviously, and there's a reason why we launched on SOAR. We want to build our community. We want to get that, and we want people to be able to see what it is that we're doing. So I think it's very, very important. Again, you're seeing someone like this maniacal this maniacal psychotic founder who comes from this background. It's very important to see whether whether it's the real deal or not, right? And I think that's the purpose of these things. I was listening to you guys earlier. One of the things that you guys, some of the bits of wisdom you guys were telling your audience was, it's not about the idea. Fuck the idea. It's not about the idea. It's not about the business model. It's about none of that. At the end of the day, it's about the founder, right? So if this is someone, because business models can change, ideas change all the time, right? But if the founder is someone who's not persistent, is not tenacious, and is not psychotic, good luck, right? It's not going to happen. Fortunately for me, psychosis is one of my superpowers. So to go back to what we were talking about, Josh, this so with this agentic workforce, right, with SHIZA AWF, with we're going into companies and we're saying, look, we're going to essentially, this is cost savings, significant cost savings, in which the vast majority of your workforce, right, of your tasks can be, they can be automated. We take care of the tasks, then we get to the processes. They end up getting automated. Once the process ends up getting automated, then it's the job functions themselves that end up getting automated. So step number one for to address your question, Dom, how do we get to, how do we practically get to it? Step number one is the lowest hanging fruit. The lowest hanging fruit is through SHIZA Agentic Workforce, AWF, which is why even on our website right now, the emphasis that you're seeing primarily is on workforce automation. It's on this automation, which is, but we are not a, just a agentic, another agent building tool. We're not a, we're not just and creating our own model. We're building a model, an LLM agnostic orchestration layer that allows you to pull from the best of the best, right? You mentioned Claude earlier, vibe coding, right? These things are only going to get better and better and better. So we're in a race right now, right? Like 6 months ago, OpenAI was the talk of the town, right? Then 3 months ago, Google shot all over them, right? And then now it's all about Claude, right? So, but the smart thing to do for you as an individual, right? The smart thing to do is you don't want to bet on one horse because you don't know which horse is going to win. And these horses are neck, are neck and neck. Tomorrow, maybe it's a completely new horse that comes in and just ends up thrashing them all, right? So the architecture that we're creating is what we're calling an LLM agnostic orchestration layer that allows you to be able to pick and choose from the best at that point in time that makes sense, right? So for example, if I wanted to do any kind of creative writing, I go to an OpenAI, right? I'll utilize that. If I wanted to do any kind of anything for, let's say, videos or any sort of automation of those, right? Then I'm going to the Gemini suite of products, right? And into their models. If I want to do any kind of coding, I'm going to Claude, right? So, but
and this is within the context of, so you started with workforce automation. You actually have some in the artifacts, you have some contracts that are redacted in there. So you're already doing this, like you already have customers. Can you maybe talk a bit about some of those implementations and a bit about what those contracts look like, deal sizes, whatever you want to share?
So with the AWF, we just got started with that. Like just in the last, and which is why we're like, oh, holy shit, we need to start raising now because we can't keep pace with the demand, right? So let's do this
from customers, from enterprise customers.
Yes,
you can't keep pace with the demand. Why is there a constraint around that? Is it salespeople onboarding? Is it what's the constraint?
There's a ton of demand there. Look, think about it this way, right? It's like this moment that we're in right now. This is like being in the in during the dawn of the internet, where anyone and everyone wanted to have something with being a internet company, right? Or wanting to apply technology into it, right? So what did they do? What they did was they needed to have. There weren't enough software engineers that could do it, right? So because of that gave rise to an entire economy. That economy was the software development economy that came through, right? So that's the reason why entire economies were built on top of it. So if you take a look at my where the place where I was born, right, India, the entire Indian economy was built for the most of the part as a services economy on top of these software engineers, because we didn't have enough supply to be able to meet the demand. We're experiencing that right now. Most people, right? So vibe coding is great for certain things. And by the way, vibe coding is also going to get better and better and better, right? But how do you vibe? Like vibe coding is one aspect of it, but then you take a step back, and when it comes to like orchestrating and when it comes to architecting the right solutions, things like security, all those nuances that are there, right? That is the lowest hanging fruit where you can start to go, and organizations need that, right? And it spans across the board from large scale enterprises to small mom and pop shops as well, right? So for us, what we're looking at is how can we start targeting these, right? So we need to increase our workforce so we can, because when it comes to sales, when it comes to going to like a lot of these SMBs, right? AI as of right now isn't there where it's going to go. You still need to have the humans to be able to do that, right? To be able to
to go 0 to 1. Yeah.
To go 0 to 1. Correct. So you have that. And of course, then there's again, like I was saying earlier, right? It's not that 100% of the human workforce is going to be something that's going to be replaced, right? It's going to be quite significant. So we still need to find those people. It's just what's going to end up happening is you're going to have less and less humans overseeing more and more of these AI.
So I want to talk about some of these enterprise deals, because I almost worked for Microsoft, a reseller doing some of this kind of work, and they would go into businesses, obviously start with setting them up with some cloud infrastructure, then do their security, and then say, hey, look, what can we start to automate? Essentially, you're doing a similar process with your enterprise clients. Is that correct? And you have 2 of these deals that are paying you to do this?
Correct. And these enterprise clients, I'm using the word enterprise, and I'm also being very careful about how to use it, because when you use the word enterprise, people immediately think these are like, Fortune 500. We're not even going there. So there's a reason why we're not going there, because for the most of the part, it's a waste of time to approach them right now. These are dinosaurs. I know this because that's the world that I came from. That's why I got frustrated with working for that. And I said, fuck it. You guys are nowhere near innovation. So I'm going to go out and do it on my own. The real sweet spot as of right now for us is in the SMB sector, right? Small to mid-sized businesses. Right. So for those small to mid-sized businesses that we're going to be able to hit and target. So it's you mentioned something, right? You mentioned cloud infrastructure in the past, right? Most of these people, they don't even have an idea where to get started, right? So what we are doing is we're providing them with packaged solutions where you don't have to worry about any of the complexities, right? So like even like some of the things that the Dom is doing right now, right, which is fairly easy for someone like him to be able to put together, because at least he understands tech. Most people don't even have an understanding around that. So what if you can actually just talk to your agent, explain what your processes are? It will learn it. There's an onboarding process. And from that, it's spitting out these reports for what needs to get done, identifying what some of your biggest pain points are, and then building out that solution for you. That for us is the lowest hanging fruit that we're looking to go for. So I'll give you an example of this. One example of a client is they are a Hollywood, like they do Hollywood scripts, right? So they review Hollywood scripts. They're a production shop, so they get bombarded just like how a VC would get bombarded by decks, and they have to do all the filtering and whatnot, right? They do that same thing. So that's a very laborious and time intensive process to do, right? Not efficient at all. It takes up a lot of time. That is something that can be agentified, but it's not as simple as just going to Claude and saying, hey, Claude, take a look at this, tell me what's good, tell me what's bad, because all Claude is going to do, or all OpenAI is going to do, is it's going to learn from what everyone else is doing, provided there's a lot of nuance that's there, right? So
there's context specific kind of, what makes a great script, and then you can train it over time, and et cetera.
And a dummy like me is not going to know what that is. I'll just be like, oh, yeah, whatever, right? But Josh, for example, if that's what he does, he's going to have very specific nuances and nuanced approaches towards what's what and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So now what you're doing is you're training, and that comes from Josh's experience, right? So if you've been in the industry for 5-10 years, that experience that you're gaining, that is what you're going to train this on. The difference is that when you're training today, if you're training Claude or if you're training OpenAI, you're feeding that to OpenAI and to Claude, right? In this instance, what you're going to be, when you're training it on your own ilm. So your ilm is think of it as a digital version of your brain. That's why it's no coincidence that SHIZA's logo is what? It's a digital brain, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what we're essentially. It's your experience, your brain. You own it.
Right. So you're doing these quote unquote enterprise in your quoting enterprise implementations, these B2B implementations. They pay you an implementation fee. They pay you a monthly subscription. How does your revenue model work?
Yeah. So the revenue model is so we've got multiple streams of revenue, and I'll go through that. Right. So one is what you just mentioned, right? Like sort of our solutions based approach, which is very easy, low hanging fruit. That is, there's, depending on the complexity of what needs to get built out, there's an initial implementation fee, right? There's a one-time implementation fee, and then there is an ongoing infrastructure sort of support fee that ties into that, right? So there's the services fee. That's one stream. There is our infrastructure, the AWS managed services fee, right? That's the second stream. The third stream is like with what Dom is playing with, right? Which is a developer, right? So just like she's a developer, we have other tools that we're going to be bringing onto the market as well that we're working on. So there is a SaaS fee as well that's associated with it. So you're going to pay on a per license, per seat model. So that's our third stream of revenue. Our fourth stream of revenue is APIs, right? So right now, the model that we have is you bring your own API. Eventually, what we're going to do is it doesn't make sense even for you to bring your own API. It's too much for you to ask, too much for you to think. You shouldn't be able. We're going to negotiate. We're going to have ownership of those APIs, right? And we're going to create those routing mechanisms so you don't ever have to worry about that, right? We do that so you can subscribe to it as with an API as a service, right? So that is the fourth stream. And then the fifth stream, and this is the biggest one in my mind, this is where the future is going to be built on top of. And this is where things start to get very, very interesting and cool. This is what we call our CaaS, right? Knowledge as a service. So like even like SaaS, right? I mentioned we have a SaaS model as well, right? We're going to kill our own fucking model. And that's going to give birth to the rise of the CaaS model, knowledge as a service. So what do we mean by that? Your all of this experience that you're gaining, that you have, right? If I want to pick on that, you have your ilm, but Josh's ilm. What did I say, Josh? Your ilm is it's a digital version of your brain. Well, yeah. You don't want to give access to your brain to anyone, right? In its entirety, right? Instead, what you want to give them is you want to give them access to derivatives of your knowledge, right? Which is what we call an intellect. Your intellect is essentially a custom knowledge store of all of your experiences, right? So if I wanted to, for example, right now in this discussion, if this was a conversation that I was having with Josh, and Josh is having with Saeed, Josh doesn't give a fuck about Saeed's brain in its entirety. What he's got very targeted questions that he wants to have answers to. So what if I could give you access to my, to that intellect, right? To the intellect of Saeed and SHIZA, for example, or Saeed's take on post-labor economics, for example, right? So if I can do that, that's what Josh cares about. Now, remember, I came onto this podcast. We've been on for almost a half hour, let's say, where if that is if that is all we're doing, right, and we're communicating in this half hour I've been talking, but guess what? In this half hour discussion that I've been talking, sorry to break it to you guys, but there's nothing novel that I've said here. Right? There's nothing novel. There was never an aha moment for me. I could have this conversation in my fucking sleep, right? And this is the reality of all of us, right? 95% of the conversations that we have, 95%, and this is me being conservative, by the way, right? 95% of it is just repetition. There's nothing novel about it, right? You asked me for my background. I've said this 100,000 times in the past. I've given it to people, right? This story. The reason why I'm so smooth in my flow is not because I'm a genius, it's because I've done it a fucking billion times, right? Well, if that's the case, why is it that you have to speak to physical Saeed when you can just have this discussion with my digital intellect, right? That you can go in and you can communicate
with your CAS or
with my CAS,
yeah. So
right?
okay, and so actually, I wanted to ask because we got to give Darth Internal a shout out here. So you create a dupe or avatar of yourself by training an agent with your unique skills, knowledge, and experience. So that agent does all the work, but you accrue the benefits. So back to this example that you're just speaking about. You know, I could talk to you or I could go to your CAS and how do you, so I pay the CAS and you get the benefit and you don't have to be on the stream. Like how does it work?
So this is where the value of the individual comes in, right? So what you're going to end up doing is now today, you're like, you know what, Saeed, this is awesome. You know, for MCG, what we want to do is we want to hire you, right? We want to hire you and we want you to help us figure this stuff out. And I'm like, cool. Here you go. Here's $500 an hour. That's what I'm going to charge you for, right? Or I'll, you know.
Hey there, I'm Syed, founder and CEO of SHIZA, and I'm excited to connect with you. What's up?
Sorry, Dom's.
Sorry, I didn't think I was gonna start playing.
Sorry.
No, Dom, talk to Saeed. Ask him.
So can it hear my voice if I get into the
Sorry
script?
about that. I was just making sure you were still there. Is there anything you'd like to know about SHIZA
Okay.
or
I'm
how
gonna-
we're building the infrastructure for a
What should I ask it?
post-agentic world?
What's the question
Maybe
we
you're
ask
curious
real
about
side here?
Ask it about what the fuck does it mean? Exactly like that. What the fuck do you mean by post-agentic?
Okay. Can you hear me right now or? Hey, Side, what the fuck do you mean by post-agentic, dude? I must be. I'm not sure if my mic's connected to. Let me hang up and try again. Here we go.
Hey there, I'm Syed, founder and CEO of SHIZA, and I'm excited to connect with you. What's up?
Yeah, cut the shit. What do you mean by post-agentic, dude?
All right, straight to the point. I like it. So, post-agentic refers to a future where AI agents are so advanced and pervasive that they've fundamentally reshaped how we work and create value. Instead of just automating tasks, these agents become active participants in the economy. And the big question is, who owns them? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I want to
Ask how do
talk
you make
to the
money?
real Saeed though. How do you make money?
I'm glad you asked. We've got multiple revenue streams flowing into SHIZA. We make money through software as a service subscriptions, application programming interface access fees, and marketplace fees within our ecosystem. Users can pay for subscriptions using either
Tell him,
fiat
ask
currency
him how
or our
Dom makes
neuron
money.
tokens, which gives a discount for using neurons. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it answers my question, but really, I just want to know, how do I make money, to be honest? Are you going to pay me?
Where'd it go? Ask him again. Yo, Knucklehead,
right.
can you hear me?
Why is it not terms and conditions? Except here we go. Yo, can you hear me? Let me hang up and talk to him again.
Hey there, I'm Syed, founder and CEO of SHIZA, and I'm excited to connect with you. What's up?
Yeah. Can you just tell me how I make money?
I get it. You want to cut to the chase. Love that. At SHIZA, we're building a new kind of AI economy where you can own your intelligence and turn it into revenue-generating assets. Are you interested in making money as an individual, or are you thinking about how your organization could leverage SHIZA to boost the bottom line?
No. As an individual.
Got it. So as an individual, you can make money by creating and owning AI agents that automate tasks and generate revenue for you. You can also monetize your unique knowledge and insights by creating and sharing personalized intellects on our decentralized marketplace. Does that sound interesting? I can give you more details about how that works, or we can even schedule a meeting to discuss your specific interests. What do
Dom,
you
set up a
think?
meeting.
Let's set up a meeting. I have no clue what decentralized intellect is, so I need you to teach me.
Great. I'm happy to set up a meeting to walk you through it. First, I'll need a bit of information to get it scheduled. Could you provide your full name and email and also the reason for the meeting? Also, what time zone are you in?
Yeah, Dinero Dom, and my email is dinerodom@gmail.com. I'm in Eastern Standard Time Zone here in Florida. And yeah, am I missing anything?
Okay, Dinero Dom, thanks. And the reason for the meeting is to learn about decentralized intellects and how to make money with SHIZA, correct?
That's right.
Okay, great. Give me just a moment while I check my calendar. Okay, I'm going to book a meeting for you.
Oh, thank goodness you're free. Jeez.
All right.
All right. So I think then what it probably sends my pseudo email there meeting.
Yep. You'll get it.
Okay. Well, there you go. Well, we
Looks
got
like the calendar tool timed out. I'm sorry about that, De Niro.
All right,
Let's try that again.
we're hanging
I'm
up.
going to book a meeting for you. It seems like there's a conflict in the calendar. Do you have another time that works for you, De Niro?
Oh, this is going to your Calendly.
Yes. It's going to my calendar. It's going through it.
Yes, it is.
it's
I
making
am
sure
sorry
that
about the issues, De Niro. What time works best for you?
Okay. We get the gist. Let me switch over here. Okay. So yeah, we got the vibe there. It's your personal agent right there. Just booked a meeting between us for some time in whenever I said. Yeah, do you just want to explain a bit about what we just witnessed?
Yeah. So here's the funny thing about anyone who's impressed by what you guys just witnessed. This isn't shit, right? This is like the easiest thing to put together, right? It's just
I find how funny he is. So just, impressed because it's your personality and it's exactly the same as it is on the agent. So
yeah, it's so you guys gotta talk to my team about this because it's not exactly my personality because he's not dropping enough F-bombs. Okay.
That's what I was waiting for, dude. I was gonna copy and paste your tweet over here.
You got to tell that's to my head of products. Okay. Exactly. Did you guys, by the way, did you guys see on there, like when I posted that, my team was actually sending me messages thinking that I got hacked.
dude,
No
yeah,
way.
well, we were doing slight due diligence beforehand. I'm like, yo, this guy is wild, or like, what's going on here?
Yeah. No, I think the agent needs a little bit of fine tuning, but I'm not sure if you want that. I don't know. I'm not sure if you want this version of yourself forward facing to the customers here.
The face of the customer, the face of business, the face of how we interact, that's all changing. I think that's been proven by the man that we have heading up our nation. I think if there's one thing that he's proven and he's shown is that what we used to think of is no longer applicable.
In the sense that it's no longer just the suits and the smooth talkers. You can be hoodied up,
I think
dropping
people,
F-bombs.
yeah. So I think people appreciate genuineness and honesty, especially as we start to go into this world of agents, right? So, for example, here's another thing that will
Grifane V2. I like that. Actually, that's an interesting comparison. We'll get into it because someone wants to say, and I'll quote from Sacramento on X, bro, can you tell me what the token is about? So they want to know what the token is.
So no bullshit. Right now, what the token is about is, you said he's from Canada?
No, it just
Sacramento.
that's his Sacramento.
Oh, Sacramento.
His
Okay.
handle
Okay.
on X.
I
I like
thought you
showing
said-
people out, like, hey, so they can hear their question asked. Like,
Yeah, of course,
yeah.
of course. No, because I thought you said a boat, and I was like, is that Canada?
Oh yeah, I'm from Toronto too. So yeah.
Oh, so that's just your natural accent. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we're as far as the mechanics of the token itself are concerned, there is going to be there's a lot of stuff that we're putting together, but for right now we're keeping things super simple. The reason, which is the whole reason why we launched the SOAR launched on SOAR, is because they've got one of the best models to have an ownership coin, right? So as of right now, this token represents direct ownership in the company, in what it is that we're building out in the future. So it's essentially it's 1-to-1 with our equity, and eventually one of the things that we're working on is and this is where I was getting to the last part of the question that you had asked, Josh, which is the fifth part of our revenue stream, which is what we're calling agents to agents. So you had asked, how does my if there was an earlier question, right? How does my agent, how do I make money from it? Well, the way that you're going to make money from it is, instead of hiring an individual for, let's say, $500 an hour or $1,000 an hour, where for that time I'm exclusive to you and you only, right? What if I can scale myself? Because as a human, I can't. AI agents give you the ability to scale yourself, right? So now what the future is going to end up being is, instead of individuals charging themselves out for $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour, like $200 an hour, even $20 an hour, people will just subscribe to specific intellects of theirs for, let's say, $10 a month, right? I'm going to subscribe to this. $15 a month there. And you're going to have this massive marketplace. This is where the CAS marketplace comes in, right? Where you're going to have all of these people subscribing to other people's agents. And for every single transaction that's occurring, so it's an open market, because maybe Dom values Josh's intellect more than Saeed would value it, right? And or Josh values Saeed's intellect more than what Dom would value it. So it's going to be an open market in which people are going to determine whose intellect they need for at what cost. So open, again, the free capital markets mechanics going into it. And then for every single transaction that's going to be occurring, there's a small little fee that gets taken off the top, and that goes back into, that's our fifth stream of revenue, which is what we call our CAS marketplace.
So essentially, the I guess end goal here is everyone has their minds connected to these cast agents, and now I can go trade, exchange, buy, sell my image likeness on this website, and I can profit from it, and I can buy other people's for specific tasks that I know they're good at.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. It's what's going to end up happening is, remember, the real value is going to be the value of the human experience, right? Because it's not a play for data, right? So if I'm talking to, for example, my attorney, right? It's not a data play, right? Because the same access to data that he has, I have as well, right? That's already democratized. I would even go as far as saying that I probably have more access to data because I'm a data nerd, right? Than him, than he would have access to, right? So I'm actually at a greater advantage when it comes to having access to data. So we can determine that it's not a data play there, right? What I'm valuing him for is not his data, but it's how he interprets that data and tells me what to do with it, right? That's what I'm paying him for. And that comes directly from the experience that he has, right? So the real value ends up becoming the human experience that these things are going to need. So on a constant basis, we're going to be accruing these things, and that's what these machines are going to want, right? That's what other AI agents are going to want.
Can you pull up that comment? So Roman here is another project called CPT, and Patrick Sang is the founder of it. He took companies public, $10 billion valuation on the NASDAQ during COVID, crazy story. So could I take basically Dom and say, all right, Dom works on MCG, but I need like 10,000 versions of Dom for me to be successful and highly profitable. Could I just hire those 10,000 Doms and then just, not fire the real one, of course, but like now I have 10,000 working Doms? Is that real, or am I tripping?
No, that is real. The question is, if you're going to hire 10,000 Doms, then, you're going to start to reach a point of inefficiency in the market, right? So do you need to have 10,000 DOMs, or can you just leverage, because the value of DOM is not going to be on the output. It's going to be on the input, right? Which is his intellect, which you'll be subscribing to. So you just leverage. So you're better off. What you're better off doing is, instead of hiring 10,000 DOMs, right? What you're better off doing is you're subscribe to Dom's intellect, then you marry Dom's intellect with Saeed's intellect, and then you marry Saeed's intellect with Jim's intellect, and you marry Jim's intellect with Joe's intellect. You have this collective of what we call these interconnected intellects, and that ends up, so they're benefiting from it, and then it's your idea, and that's where the execution is happening.
Interesting. Okay, now we're peeling back the layers. So I'll ask you this, because
can you hold on just 1 second? I think that's my kid calling me.
No worries. Yeah, no worries. Do your thing. We can bump you off here off screen so you can make your call. But
yeah, Josh, and maybe you want to share your thoughts up until this point. I think we all are kind of in understanding what's going on here. I'm curious. They've been working on this for 2 years. They have some clients here. How big is the team? They're going into a fundraising round. How are they seeking funding? So they have maybe, I don't know, you could even ask for projected, I guess, valuations or whatever that might be. But curious, what are your current thoughts?
Let's get into a wrapping segment of this with those kind of more focused questions. I don't know. Are you good, Seed? 1 more minute? Okay. He's having a conversation with his kid. That's fine. Yeah. So we want to know, yeah, those questions exactly. To be honest with you guys, we've been streaming for 5 hours. Like my brain is like, needing
fried. But I think we get the
fried.
gist here. You
Yeah.
can basically leverage, as long as they're on the marketplace, anyone's intellect, anyone's edge, right? I think edge is a good way to put it. Who's good at what, and how can I use them? And if they're willing to sell it, can I buy it to make myself more profitable? Quick, like whatever it might be. So we see Patrick Sang, for example. We know Patrick Sang's great with relationships. He's great with partnerships, signing deals. He's high energy. Okay, so maybe I get Patrick Sang for BD. We know Josh is very good at technical analysis. He likes his AI stuff. Maybe I get Josh for AI researcher, and so on and so forth. And so I think that's the general gist of it. And I'm
That's what
understanding.
these are actually. And funny enough, I was on this slide now, but it's these like knowledge networks that you can build, I guess. And yeah,
I guess the question is, what's the extent prior to human intervention? Like, could he go out and do BD for me? Could he close the deals for, like, at what point do I have to step in myself? Obviously, the agent, when I was talking to Saeed on Saeed's agent, it set up a meeting in the calendar, but then at some point, Saeed's gonna have to step in and have that conversation in the calendar himself, I guess. Or is that just because we're too early?
Saeed, we want to get into wrapping questions here because we don't want the segment to go too long, and
Sure.
they're focused. Dom, maybe like hit the list so we can get these.
Well,
things.
high level, let's just close that thought. So what is like the extent before human intervention is needed currently, and is that going to just it's rapidly evolving as AI grows and expands? But can you tell us maybe high level, when do humans have to intervene?
Yeah, look, I mean, I can, what I can give you right now is I can tell you how things are right now. But as far as what's going to happen in the future, if I even try to pretend, right, you guys should just call me out on my own bullshit, right? The reality is that when people start to talk about like going into, you guys have probably heard of the term, right, the singularity, right? I would say that we're very, very close to the singularity, where we can't look past what's going to happen 3 years from now, right? And with this massive change that's happening. So it's at where we are right now, right? Where we are right now is there is going to be human intervention, of course. Like, so for example, when you spoke with my intellect, on the website, right? When you were there and when you were communicating with it, right? It did a lot of my job, right? Where it's like it went through my calendar, it set that up. It also took away the job of, let's say, what folks like Josh's wife, for example, right? That's what they would be doing, right? So a lot of like those, at least at a basic level, right? It took that away. But then there's high level stuff that's going to be there, right? Which as of right now, it can't do. So then what the job of an EA becomes dealing with more, the EA ends up having their own agentic EAs, and their job evolves into that of, let's say, a chief of staff, right? So now what they're doing is they're responsible for coordinating those efforts. And so what you're going to start to see is what this is leading to mass consolidation, right? Mass consolidation of roles, which means you could have 5-10 employees that were working for a company before, and now out of 10 you don't go to 0, right? But out of 10 maybe you go to 2, right? Or you go to 3, right? That's a 70% cut, by the way, right? If there's that consolidation that happens, then the role of the CEO becomes more around overseeing, right? Overseeing and oversight and whatnot, right? To be able to look through all these things. So that becomes, that's where the evolution of the role happens. And then it's like, okay, well, now I can if I have this experience, and now all of a sudden my intellect, I also put out into the market, and there's companies that need advisors, they can just subscribe to my intellect, right? So then we can start to have lesser and lesser roles that are there, but then my time is saved, right? So we're absolutely, so when you talk about like the future state, right? And Dom, you had asked a question earlier also, which I think is important to address as a part of this, which is why the Chinese are, sort of less concerned, appear to be at least less concerned about it versus us here. A lot of it also has to do with the fact that, where the people that are going to be the least concerned are going to be the people that are the least affected by it, right? So if you don't really have a job for the most of the part, you don't care if there's going to be job losses, right? But if you do have a job, of course you're going to care more about that.
People
right?
that have the most to lose, maybe is what you're saying.
People that have the most, absolutely. So, but here is what I will say though. I'm not again, this is where if you go on my X, you'll see like the response that I had for Bernie on his dopey idea around putting a moratorium on data centers. It's a silly solution, right? What he's suggesting. Yes, it's reason for concern, and I applaud him for being one of the rare people that are actually at least even bringing up this problem, which is the number one problem in the world, by the way, that we're solving for, right? This is the number one problem. Unless someone were to say there's a asteroid hurtling towards the Earth right now, I would say this is problem number one, right? So when you have that, right, when you're going to have that, that leads to that is what leads to mass consolidation. When you take away the human element out of it, right? Don't forget, a post-agentic world, a post-labor world also means a post-abundant world where you're going to see mass abundance, because the cost of the things that you have to buy are going to go down very, very drastically. Because remember the P&L example that I gave, taking the most expensive line items out of there. When you start to take that out, then you're going to start to, that means the cost of goods, the cost of things that you're buying into the market. And when it becomes this easy for people to be able to build these things, all of a sudden you start to see mass price collapse coming in. So then the real value becomes human interactions, human experiences, because these machines are going to need to have that. And that's where this whole notion around the intellect-based marketplace comes into play.
We want to wrap up in 5 minutes here, 5 p.m. Eastern. We want to cap it because it's man, you're a very interesting speaker. I think everyone wants to know is how does that accrue to the token itself? Is it through mass adoption? Are you going to drive crazy revenues because companies are hiring you? Are individuals going to be like, man, go rent my intellect over there, and you have this vibrant marketplace with billions of dollars of transactions? How do people benefit from this?
So a couple of things, right? The lowest hanging fruit that we have is, look, this is the reason why we went down the SOAR route, right? Which is we did our raise. We don't need to have that much money, right? Unlike and by the way, I love to come on to I'll come on again and we can go into a completely different topic also, which is what does the future for entrepreneurs, for startups, for VCs come into play, right? Because one of my thesis is that in this post-labor market, you're going to start to have less and less capital requirements to be able to build things, right?
Right.
So we realize that. I mean, that's the reason why we said we don't need to go out and do a mass raise, right? We can do a small enough raise, and with that, we're already at revenue, but we can get to revenue to the point where we can be self-sustaining, right? And that's going to happen very, very rapidly for us, right? So when that happens, now all of a sudden, what does that do? What does that do to the value of the token that we have, which is directly correlated with our equity? The value of the token skyrockets. So now that the value of the token is skyrocketed, the next time I need to go out and raise additional funding, I don't have to do it at these bullshit valuations, right? Because there's real product, there's real revenue, there's a real team, there's a real problem with a real solution that we're solving for with the real customers. So this is how you position yourself to become essentially like.
What do you think timing is like for you to get to that state where you're like, all right, you're already revenue positive, but you're like at profitability?
8 months.
Yeah. So this year, like,
yeah.
So by the end of the year, you're thinking, hey, like we're very far down this automation job loss kind of wormholes, close to the singularity. AWF is this platform where people are uploading their intellect and there's this vibrant marketplace. I'm creating my custom agents by getting a little Saeed, getting a little De Niro Dom and a little, whoever else there, creating my custom agent. I'm doing a lot of work. AWF is kind of at the center of that. And, VCs are like, here, Saeed, please take our money. Please take our... right? And directionally, am I getting there?
100%. Look, I mean, the reality is that this is why you want to position this, right? So that's why for us, I've always been an infrastructure guy from day one, right? Whenever there's a gold rush, you wanna invest in the in the
Picks and
pickles
shovels.
yeah,
Got
picks
it.
and shovels, right?
Picks and shovels.
And that's where the opportunity lies. So this is why we have to, we have to start thinking about what's coming ahead. That's why when most people remember, we had built out our agentic solution 2 years ago, right? And immediately when I saw how easy it was, I was like, fuck this. We got to start thinking about post-agentic because this thing is there's going to be a real problem that needs to be solved for. So that's why we're one of the, we're even that term post-agentic, that's a term that we coined, right? That's our term.
So that double down, triple down on that, by the way. Sorry, Dom, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess to just wrap this, it all sounds great in theory, but the big question is, how can I get an AI to fully embody my mind, my thoughts, my life, my day-to-day, what I see, what I think through? It's a lot to capture. We don't have neural links in our brain. Can you tell me how that works out at a high level here in the next minute or two?
Yeah, very easy. So you're actually already doing that. So there's nothing novel about SHIZA having to build something out like that, right? So how do you do that? If you go into any of your meetings, right? Almost none of us go into meetings without any kind of a meeting recorder that's there, right? That's recording it, whether it's a Fireflies or whether it's Read or whether it's, and then we have you have in your email suite, you've got something like a Gemini that's sitting there. You've got something like, if you're in Microsoft, you've got a Copilot that's there. Or for your social media, you're interacting with Grok AI that's there, right? Problem is all of these are isolated from one another, right? There's nothing that's centralized. These are all so Grok is holding onto that data. Your read notes are holding onto that, right? What we're doing with all of this is that we could, one of two things. One, we're planning on launching the SHIZA companion, which will follow you, which will have all of these things. Or what it's going to do is just have API tie-ins, or it's just going to take the inputs from their output that's already there and put all of that inside of your own. You solve for it, and that's not that difficult to put together, right? The key is in how do you build an infrastructure which is cryptographically secured, which is private to you, right? That's where the novelty of the solution comes in, and that's what it is that we're building out. But the capture mechanics, they're already here.
Wild conversation, Saeed. Wild conversation. I love your vibe, by the way. You have a good vibe about you. So
awesome, man. Well, look, man. Much appreciated, and
of course.
And while I wouldn't be doing this thing justice if I did not give a shout out to Tom and Sean and the boys over at SOAR.
Yes, love them.
They've been absolutely phenomenal, and they're not paying me to say this or to do this, but if you are a startup, a serious startup, right, that is actually building something real and you want to get real exposure, talk to SOAR. Launch on SOAR.
There we go. Good way to close it off. Saeed, we appreciate your time here today. Pretty fascinating conversation, and we'll continue to follow your project and see what you guys cook up. So
yeah, thanks. Awesome, man. Follow us on Twitter. For anyone that's out there, today is day one. So and boys, thank you for giving us this public exposure and being super early supporters. And I'm looking to come back on and continue to keep you guys posted.
Yeah, bring us some updates, man. Let's go.
100%.
Updates.
All right, boys.
Yes,
Peace.
Bye.